Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. So again, guys, welcome to my session on cultural competency, providing equitable math instruction with cultural relevance. My name is Dr. India White. You can call me India. You can call me Indy. I want to be approachable with you. We're all here striving to help students learn. And so I'm very grateful for the opportunity to present at the Broward Equity Conference. I think this is amazing what you guys are doing. And so with that said, I'm going to continue moving forward. Again, my name is Dr. India White. I'm a national education consultant with Big Ideas Learning. We are a math publishing company. We are a curriculum of K-12 math where we focus on making sure that we can provide that balanced approach for all learners. And we are so happy because we have gotten a whiff of just the joy you get when you talk about equity and the joy you get when you're able to help all learners. And so I'm honored to be a speaker for them and just in general, a motivational speaker and an author as well. And so I'm hearing things about the screen. I'm not sure if anyone on the techie side can help with that. If not, please feel free to just bear with us. And I thank you for your patience as we deal with our technological issues, right? And so with that said, I did provide to you guys my Twitter and my LinkedIn and my website down there. And there's also a Big Ideas Learning website as well, which I'll provide also in the chat. So feel free to write all these things down so that you can get these at your own time and your leisure, okay?
I see your screen, it is kind of blurry. So I'm thinking maybe you may want to reshare it again.
Okay, no problem. I'm going to stop sharing. Then I'm going to reshare. Oh, I absolutely love audience. Is that better, guys?
Yeah, that's a lot better.
Okay, great. Thank you guys so much for your patience. See, you guys are rock stars. I love it. Hey, Miss McFarland, how are you? Hey, Susanna. Hey, Sheldon. All right, great. So I'm loving the interaction already. I know this is going to be an amazing group. So with that said, you guys have my information. So the order of our presentation today is foundational. We're going to start with foundational research once I'm able to. Yeah, okay. We'll start with foundational research, and that's going to go into innovative educational strategies. We'll talk a little bit about some biases as well. We'll talk about relationship building. We'll conclude it together. We'll do some activities as well. And then there'll be questions and follow up. So if you have a question or whatever that you have about equity that you want to kind of write down on the side a little bit right now and just kind of think about it, feel free to do that because we'll get to that at the end. And if I can't get to all the questions because of time's sake, then we'll definitely open it up where you guys can email me, all right? And so we'll go that route. Now, a little bit about me. Again, my name is Doc India White, Sarasota native. I don't know if there's anybody here from Sarasota in the house. But I'm from Sarasota, Florida. I'm a 3-time first-generation graduate from the University of Florida. I was a former math teacher, 612, former math coach, 612. I was a former high school administrator. I'm a mother of a 3rd grader and now 6th grader. She just graduated elementary school, 5th grade. Any of you elementary people out there represent? So she just graduated yesterday. I'm so happy, so proud of her. And another thing about me, I love playing saxophone and can't sing. So yes, you can crack on me. Yes, I give you permission. This work right here in this corner was when I was in my administrator days. We were over the Hillsborough Alliance of Black School Educators, and what a great event. We gave thousands and thousands of scholarships away to many students, African-American students that had a 3.0 to 3.5 or higher GPAs going right to college. And so with that said, that took the work of equity, and that was one reason why it kind of birthed in me a passion to speak with leaders like yourselves, because I know that you guys understand that passion and you want to build upon that passion. And so with that said, go ahead and visit Menti.com and enter this code. Please, someone share out to me as well. You can tell me if the code works for you so that I can adjust it if it doesn't work, or I can whatever. I hope the code is live. It should work. Thank you, Eddie. You're very sweet. Thank you. I'm going to see if the code works for us. All right, guys. So yes. Thank you, Courtney. Whoop, whoop. So it works. So we are good to go. So go ahead and start filling that in. And then in a little bit, I'm going to share with you the results. You can do the QR scanning. You can type the code in. You can copy that that URL link, and you can type that on in as well. So you've got 3 options for how you can do that. Hey, Chanel, how are you? Seeing you guys in the chat. Thanks for letting me know it works. Good. All right. So there should be 2 questions that you see on the equity on the Mentimeter. So let me know if you okay, you're waiting on the next slide. Okay. I'm going to see if I can exit full screen so that I can go and look at the results with you guys. So let's go to Menti results and see what's going on. Okay, favorite football team in the SEC. Okay, a lot of you said NFL. Okay, but if we're talking SEC, we're talking college. So I see we got some UF and we've got Auburn in the house. Georgia Bulldogs. Oh, really? All right. Let's see. Who's the Seminole? What is this? I gotta train. I gotta retrain. Okay, come on, Gators. Come on, Gators. I'm pulling for the Gators. So, your favorite football? Somebody said cookie, flour, cake. Okay, so it looks like if I had to choose a winner, it looks like between this audience, it looks like the Hurricanes have won. Okay, and that's all right. So let's look at the next one, the next slide. The next slide. Can you all see the next slide? So the next slide says, the next slide, I like your comments in the chat. It says, what does equity mean to you in one word? Are y'all able to see the slide?
No, it seems like when I try to refresh or go to the next one, at least where I'm on my phone, it says slide has not changed, but maybe.
Okay. Let me see if I can refresh it from my end as well. I'm refreshing it from my end as well. And then let me see what happens. If you can't access the app, you should be able to type in, does that work now?
It says, wait for presenter to show the next slide.
Okay.
I don't know what's happening. Okay, I got it. I see it.
Let's try it now. It's all right. We'll figure it out.
It's up.
We got it. It says, what does equity mean to you in one word?
In one word, yes.
Okay.
Awesome. Results are coming in. Wow. I'm loving it. Loving it, loving it, loving it. Go ahead and enter it into the Menti. Yep. You can enter it into the Menti. And as you can see, the results are starting to compile. Yeah. Wow. This is powerful. So it looks like many of you have put in these results, and I'm going to share the top 3 words that rise. So as we can see, the code for the Menti is 1151-2692. Again, the code for Menti is 1151-2692. This is a great activity as well. You can use for your students and other teacher leaders and district leaders as well. Feel free to steal. Yeah, so menti.com, and then you should be able to put this in 11512692, and you should be able to see this slide.
Again, it's like I can see the slide. It's a little blurry. Not reshare, but when you reshare, make sure you
Yeah.
put it on the screen.
Okay, gotcha. All right, how about now? Is that better?
That's a whole lot better.
Yay, okay, great. I appreciate y'all and your patience with all of the technology. You guys know how it goes, right? So, okay, so with that said, from you guys to you in one word. So here we've gotten that. We've received the main word is fairness. The next word, equal. The next word, opportunity. And I have to say, my hats go off to you. I agree, 100%. Equity is about being fair. So with that said, I'm going to exit out of the Menti, and we are going to go back to our presentation. I'm going to stop sharing and then reshare because I know how this is working for us, right, guys? So I'm going to go back to my presentation from the current slide. So we did our Menti already, and now we talked about what equity and access means. Now, usually I want you to take 2 minutes to write down your thoughts, but I want some of you guys, maybe 2 or 3 of you, to share out right now and just say what equity and access means to you. Feel free to unmute yourself and you can chime in with your neighbors and with everybody here to say, this is what equity and access means to me. So you can take a moment and write and then chime in.
I didn't write it down. I'll just kind of free wing it.
Go ahead. And your name?
Is that Matthew Burton.
Hey, Matt.
Hello. Equity and access to me is that every child has access to an educator that is non-biased, that provides relevant educational opportunities in which the child sees themselves reflected in the curriculum, in the media presented, in the word problems for math and the books, just see themselves represented in a positive light, not just represented, but represented positively, using pretty much the windows and mirrors concept.
Excellent. I love that you said representation. We know that representation matters, and we're starting to see that more now than ever. And we'll talk more about that later in the presentation. So thanks, Matthew, for chiming in with that wonderful response. Anyone else? Eddie said, giving every child what they need to promote and inspire mastery of the subject matter. Excellent. I agree. Lisette said, making sure that our students have the opportunity to learn. There's that word opportunity, right? And to grow without barriers that impact the process. Fabulous. Wonderfully stated. Nadine said, equity means each person has what they need to succeed. Karen stated that all people have equal access to be successful. So you guys, you're right there with it. So I think you're understanding the importance of the work. That's why you're in this session. And so I'm so excited to connect with you guys because I know that this conversation will continue to unfold fabulously. And so with that said, I'm going to go to the next slide. Let me know if the screen is blurry or whatnot. We'll take care of that. Now, we talked about, yes.
No, you're fine. I can see it.
You see it now? Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay. And Hala said, equity doesn't mean equality, but it means giving different resources to match the needs of students. And you are spot on. Right here, NCTM states that equity, it does not mean that every student should receive identical instruction, but that instead it demands that reasonable and appropriate accommodations be made as needed to promote access and attainment for all students. So I'll give you an example of equity, some examples. Having equality is one thing of saying, okay, we all have these resources, right? Equity is when some of you guys were teaching online and that student needed to log in after school right? Because they had some things going on in the day. It was an inconvenience to you, but many of you rock stars, you still helped that kid after school to get what they needed. You helped them to get the resources they needed so they could be successful at that moment. When it says as needed, that is not a respecter of persons. And so equity, it causes us to think outside of the box and to act outside of the box, right? And yes, Courtney, customized education. And yes, it usually applies to ESE kids. The ideology applies to all kids. And let me tell you this. Yes, definitely. We go above and beyond for students that are our ESE kids that are learning, our ESE scholars. But now with that same rigor and that same energy and effort, we are now putting that for all learners, especially with the COVID slide, right? Especially with so many different things that are going on. So right now, our kids need us more than ever to go above and beyond for them. And I tell you, when you're really implementing equity, you can't be lazy about it. You got to make it happen. It has to be done with fidelity, and it has to be done where you're holding leaders accountable. And so, yeah, great conversation. And so we've already been speaking about this. There's a chart here. So, you've got these different examples here of inequality, equality, and equity. Inequality definitely is one of those situations where, hey, it's just gonna, things are gonna line up the way they line up, and good luck to those learners. I hope they can figure this thing out. The access, there's not really equal access to opportunities. And this could be a situation, a socioeconomic situation. This could be, just who type of situation and getting certain connections versus the student over here who might not have those same connections. But then you've got equality where you say, okay, fine, we'll provide you the right resources. So everybody gets a textbook, everybody gets an iPad, everybody gets everything, figure it out, good luck. We gave you everything you needed, you should be successful, right? And I'm not gonna lie to you, many teachers might start in the profession and saying, look, I gave them their book, I gave them the assignment, why can't they figure it out? But what's really making the difference in classrooms with our students that are struggling in our content areas, especially math, I worked at a Title I school, a turnaround school, and I had the majority of my students were level 1 students that did not pass the FSA. Well, we had to make it happen. I can tell you at the end of that year, we did turn it around. I had the second high scores in the state, and they're thriving right now. I'm telling you that because in order for that work to have happened, we had to implement equity. And so when I look at this last picture with you guys here, it's talking about equity, some of the practices that we had to do, we had to stay late, we had to do tutoring, we had to repeat directions, we had to reteach a whole lot of times. There were so many different things we had to do. We had to implement a lot of grit and a lot of mindset changes for our students so that they could be successful, because at the end of the day, it's all about our students. And so when we really are understanding equity and we're really implementing equity in a fashion that is honorable and it is with fidelity, then you'll really start to see those results. And yes, sometimes it does take time, but I can assure you that if you stay on that track, you will see those results. So I like your response here. Is it Jonna or Joanna? Jonna, Jonna says, I believe the longer you teach, the more equipped you become to implement equity in a classroom. And I believe you're right, because I do think that there are building blocks to really implementing equity in a fashionable manner that will give you those traceable results. Rohan, you're very correct. Equity requires patience. I'm loving the chat, guys. Very correct. And so, yeah, so with that said, we're going to continue moving forward. Chanel, you're right. Students feel welcome. She says students feel welcome in the classroom because the teacher relates to the student's culture, validates students' feelings and their ability. Fantastic response. Fantastic response. So I'm going to share my screen so that you guys can see again. Thanks so much for your patience. You guys are fabulous. I love this group. Okay. Let me move my chat over here. So with that said, we're going to talk a little bit about how to understand the history of equity and the educational history in general. So Slavin and Madden in 2006, they stated that for the gap to decrease, the achievement gap to decrease, there has to be an understanding of educational history that has to be in place. So, for example, you have to start, let's start with the process of desegregation. We'll start there. We have to start somewhere, right? So we all know, well, most of us know Brown versus Board of Education was going on there, okay? So that was like our first really stab at really trying to make things equitable one day at a time. But then Rothstein found in 1994 said that our educational equality, it will not be achieved until there are economic and social equalities that are achieved as well within the nation. So just with that statement alone, we already know there is work to be done, right? Then look at the gap reduction. Boykin spoke about that, and the poverty generational gap, wealth gap. That definitely, I think, if anything, that would be the core of why we are going through many things, nationally and within the state that are impacting the way of work and education for our learners. So, it's one of those things that, and like Courtney just said here, it all boils down to access, another gap. And listen, with access, of course, you go because those kids are getting resources, right? And they're getting opportunity. Like you guys said, opportunity was your second word in this group. So with the access, they're getting those opportunities to dive deeper in their understanding and to be able to go that much higher and to feel safe, while they learn. And so what does research say about equity and access? Well, it talks about the access and equity principle, which says researchers have consistently found, guys, that students living in poverty, rural or urban, as well as students who have struggled in learning math, they are more likely to have teachers that have less the math background and less professional experience and certification outside of mathematics. And I want you to take a walk down memory lane or whatnot. Yes, and you're right, Rita, with access to Wi-Fi, there's so much going on. And so listen to this. Think about your standard calculus teacher. How many years have they been teaching math? How many years have they been teaching calculus versus your Algebra 1 teacher or versus, your college readiness teacher or your intensive math teachers on campus, right? And Courtney even said, even having a female math teacher, there's so many different things going on. So as we are kind of just grappling with all of this research and all of our experiences, we're starting to see that there's something that's adding up here in the research. But my hope is that with you guys in the session, we can begin to talk about some of these things and figure out solutions to a more effective way of work as we're also implementing equity while we're also providing amazing, effective math instruction and leadership to our students in Broward County. So with that said, yes, it's unfortunately true, guys, that if you look at the certification levels and you're looking at the years of experience, it's going to decrease depending on the type of learners that we have and the courses that are being taught. And so I want you now to take a moment and look at this and feel free to chime in the chat or also unmute yourself and tell me what you think about this. The numbers don't lie, guys. So innovation in instructional practice must be driven, right, by data-informed decision-making. And guess what we found out? After speaking with my buddies at the Florida Department of Education, we found out that the year 2237 is the projected year for completely closing the achievement gap in the area of math between white students and students of color. And so with that said, I want you to chime in the chat and also take a look at the rest of the data. It's right here for you. Got this. This is from the NAEP data, okay? And so feel free, if you want to chime in and tell us how that's making you feel, or you want to unmute yourself. Yeah. Joanna, I will not repeat any explicatives, but yes, that is too far from now. Yes. Yeah, exactly.
that's assuming the conditions stay the same.
What was that again?
That's assuming our conditions stay the same, that we continue to try to progress toward that end. And
Yeah.
if any bumps in the road along the way, you might want to add another 100 or 200 to that projection.
Woo! And I'm going to tell you another thing. This was before COVID. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I think right now we're at 25, maybe 37.
Yeah, it's tough. So 22, 37, it might be even more than that, unfortunately, because of everything. And Ms. McFarland, I love your optimism. There is hope. And what can we do to speed this up? So we're going to talk about that in these sessions. And, you know, Sheldon, you said I still don't see that really happening because there are so many issues that would need to be tackled to make this happen. Exactly. And Chanel, yes, we have work to do. We have work to do. And we know that we can't, you know, brush this under the rug anymore, right, guys? So it's in our faces. It's in our federal dollars. It's in our ESSER funds. It's in our graduation grade or rates. It's in our school grades. It's in our faces. So we've got to join together now, and we have to have some tough conversations. But listen, having tough conversations together where we can focus on some realistic, practical measures that we can implement to help bridge this gap with the resources that we already have in hand. Because think about it, we've got to start somewhere, right? We can only talk about this so much. Now we have to actually make it happen. So thanks for letting me share that with you. And I know it's unfortunate just the way it makes us all feel. Joanna said, another issue in Broward is that your teachers with experience want to work in the West schools that are not Title I. This is what we're talking about, right? And those turnaround schools need to hire and retain quality teachers. That, you said a mouthful, and I have to agree with you. And so, yeah. And Courtney said, because those kids have access to quality. And so it just shows that we have to definitely examine our way of work. Maybe even looking at our hiring practices, right? There's so many different things, which, you know, this conversation, yeah. Angela said, not only in conversations, right? Let's start putting some things in action. And Ms. McFarland said, yes, but if your school is also on the other side of the 95, it's considered A or retrained. Yeah. This is a very interesting conversation. I know you guys are hitting it up in the chats. Thank you so much for your interaction. So again, the year 2237, before COVID, that's when the achievement gap was supposed to close in the area of math. 217 years from now. So now we're going to go on and talk about how can we begin, you know, looking at what's going on nationally as well. So nationally, it's talking about how in 2019, before COVID, the scores decreased. And this is looking at, you know, all of your learners, but in particular your seniors. It says that the average scores and their math scores and the NAEP, when they took the NAEP, it decreased, okay, for all of those seniors. And only, look at this, only students in the 10th or 90th percentile able to score at a level of proficiency, which is horrible. That means that basically only 10% of our seniors were able to show their proficiency, the national report card. So there's work to be done. And another thing is, you know, just knowing that senior rates of graduation that we're taking in 2019, they showed that around a third of seniors were ready for college. 26% of seniors, I believe, was ready for the military. And 22% of seniors had absolutely no plans after college. Not military, nothing. They didn't catch it in the math class. They didn't catch it in any of the classes. And so that also is contributing, unfortunately, to this achievement gap. So we definitely have work to do. But I think that with you guys at the table, we will definitely start seeing results sooner than later. And yeah, Courtney was talking about the dumbing down effect and everything. And yes, so I know you guys are chatting it up, and I love it. I absolutely love it. So with that said, how do we then begin to speak to equity and access? How do we begin to understand this and begin to take action towards this? So NCTM, they have their principles to action. They talk about how in order for leaders to provide equity and access, teachers must go beyond good teaching to teaching that ensures that all students have opportunity to engage successfully in math classrooms and to learn challenging is the word, mathematics, okay? Because we are starting to find out that, yes, enrollment rates into advanced placement courses are beginning to increase. However, you've got a significantly small amount of students that are African American, Hispanic that are enrolled in those courses compared to their white peers, right? And why am I always using African American and Hispanic learners? Because those main subsets are the main subsets that have affected the national data. And those are the subsets that really the federal dollars have been tied to as well, right? To improve the achievement gaps. And it's not just a race-based thing, it actually is socioeconomic status. But we are finding is that unfortunately those subsets have been impacted the most. So for those that are like, where are we getting this data from and why are we pulling it the way we are? That's the logic behind it. So there's work to be done, but this is how we're going to do it. We have to start providing those opportunities for students to engage successfully in their classes and to learn challenging math classes. So with that said, now I want you guys to look at some of these here. Check out these innovative teaching practices, okay, that you can implement. You can teach through smartboards, through collaboration, through virtual reality. And I want to talk about 3D printing. So I had a student who was not a student of color, but a student of low SES. And the student was not motivated to graduate. And one thing this boy loved to do, he would like to go into our math office because we had a 3D printer. He actually was able to print an actual wristband made from these, like, the stuff that you put in the little, it looks like Legos, but they're not really Legos. And he made an actual wristband, took off the wristband that he bought from the store and replaced it with the one that he made. Well, guess what? From that, he was able to get enough inspiration and encouragement to then enroll into college. And now he's doing well. Now he wants to be an engineer. It was just all a matter of how we were able to present to him math in a way that was more engaging, where he could see himself in the math and see his reality in the math. And so another thing that we've been doing a lot of is QR codes, because they're so cool and digital and so modern and techie, and everybody loves QR codes, right? So, and I like this conversation Mastis is having about doing coding as well, right? And yes, Courtney, 3D printers are everything. Yes, for visual learners, they love it. Yes, and it's project-based. Exactly. I absolutely love that. So yeah. So Ms. McFarland, I want to encourage you to continue going on to get your certification. You've got this. Okay. And so now I'm going to give you a moment to comment in the chat, and you can write in the chat. You can unmute yourself and talk about what tools would a math program, if you had a math program in front of you that you want to use for all your learners, what tools would that particular math program need to have in order to help promote equity and access for students? So go ahead. I'm going to give you a moment to chat that in the box, and then I'll share out in a little bit. Yes. Love it. Visual, tactile, masses that's right. Courtney said, oh, brain pop. Interesting. Okay. Sheldon, wide range of manipulatives. Okay. Nadine, the same manipulatives. Desiree said more visual things. Karen, I like it. Easily accessible to all. Kim said lots of manipulatives, engaging real world uses and activities. Susanna says manipulative, interactive. Turtle? Masses? Okay, Chanel said manipulatives and real world connections. Is turtle a program or are you just saying turtle? A blend of conceptual and procedural. Sheldon, I like that a lot. And I'm thinking also, guys, we're talking equity and we're talking students from all backgrounds and all learners, all, all ways of life. What else did you think of? Lisette, review of basic facts, right? Which seems to be a barrier for understanding math. I like that. Cultural connections, Chad. Exactly. Oh, turtle is a pro. Okay. I thought you were saying like turtle because like I love turtles, by the way. Anyway. Desiree, okay. Okay. Gotcha. Representation. Okay, Sheldon. Kim says make it fun. Nice. Now, does any of you guys want to any of you want to iTools? Okay. I haven't heard of that before. Flowcabulary. Great. I love it. Right? Those math on the spot videos. Yes. Kids do love those. I love it. Real world. Yes, Susanna, you're right. So you guys are rock stars here. Obviously, you got it going on. And does anybody want to chime in and unmute yourself about your experience with the math program that you used that was really successful and had these things? Edibles, okay.
I'd love to, Dr. India.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead, share.
I think I shared with our chat that I used Touch Math with my ASD kids this year.
Okay.
And in August, I got a kid who was only adding single digit number. That's all he was doing.
Yeah.
And I used Touch Math and he left this yesterday, whenever it was, he left doing multiplication, 3-digit multiplication by 3-digit digit multiplication.
Wow.
With regrouping and with partial products, and he also did 3-digit division with 2-digit numbers, all with Touch Math. And this is a highly impacted student with autism. Okay, so
wow.
I believe in Touch Math. I believe in its built-in scaffolding, and it really works.
I love that, and I can tell that you were right there with that student from the beginning to the end. And I know that teachers are definitely one of the main influencers in the class as well. So kudos to you as well. And kudos to that wonderful learner that has rock started out. And thank you so much for sharing about Touch Math. I haven't heard about that. So I'm going to look into Touch Math as well. Yeah, I've heard Khan Academy and some other things. Think Central. Okay. Quizzes. That's great, Priscilla. So that said, you guys have provided a plethora of resources. So now I want to share with you, you're going to see that many of the things you mentioned are already here. So we had vocabulary flashcards, digital supports, assessments, right? Those quizzes. You've got tools for audio needs, family letters. How about, programs that promote diversity and inclusion? We've got graphing calculators, lesson planning notes, programs that are research vetted. How about that, right? Programs that have math tools and games. You talked about programs like Khan Academy that, it's a free program and has games. And what about apps as well, like a homework app or solutions app or, so there are all of these great things, instructional design, and of course, differentiation, right? So all of these great components are things that we want to look for as leaders when we're looking at programs that are going to help promote equity and access within the math classroom as well. So you guys did a fabulous job. Thanks so much for sharing out with that. So along with the program, we're going to need to know what can we do as educators, right? So Dr. John Hattie is a rock star who has been studying research, and he has studied over 250 different meta-analyses and just ways of work, effective teaching practices that he knows contributes towards student success. And so with that said, I want to just highlight this upper right-hand corner here, because out of all of these resources or all of these teaching methods and factors that affect student success, the top five are different, effective, high impact strategies that are in the teacher's control. that affects student success in a way that they will have at least 1 year of growth for 1 year of input. Okay. And so I want you to just kind of on your own time, do a little bit of digging about Dr. John Hattie and look at the barometer and look at all those different effective teaching practices and see if you can download that, because I'm telling you, it will be life-changing, a game changer for you in the classroom. So with that said, he's saying that through teacher clarity, you have the power to impact student success. Through feedback, you have the power to affect student success. Through direct instruction, you have the power to affect student success. You have the power through classroom discussion. And I know that many of you on here know this. Classroom discussion, when it's done right, is everything, right? So you know you have power to change the trajectory of the way a student learns, thinks about math, thinks about their own ability to succeed through classroom discussion and through space versus mass practice. So take a look at that. And yes, Courtney, Dr. Hattie does have a lot of great research. And so I wanted to share that with y'all, and thanks for letting me share. But the thing I love about that the most is that if these are done with fidelity, you must see results. So there is hope. This is how it starts. See, this is in your control as the leader. So with that said, we're now going to chime in and talk about connecting culture and ethnicity in the way that a student learns math. And so I hope y'all are able to hear this, because I absolutely love the song. And I think that Broward County, you guys will absolutely love this selection and the culture with it. And so, for example, if you're trying to do this, you can sing songs while playing, playfully doing the salsa in the class with a partner. You can rap about the math, which I had an example where I was teaching math. I'll share this with you guys. I think you'll like it. So I was teaching complex numbers, and I was teaching, I to the first, to I to the fourth, which of course is I -1, -I1. And so I was telling my kids, I said, okay, guys, we're going to do I -1, -I1. Repeat, I -1, -I1. All of a sudden, I had about 2 to 3 students, African-American students, and they start banging a beat. You guys that connect with your students understand this exactly. They start banging a beat. They made a whole beat to the song, and the whole class starts chanting, I -1, -I1, to the point it was so hilarious. And guess what happened, though? At the end of that day and at the end of that week, those kids aced that quiz. Not once did they hiccup about complex numbers or how do I find I to the 68th power. They got that down because I connected their culture. I gave them a safe space to say, you know what? You entered my class and you put in my lesson something that I wasn't prepared for, which at the time I was not prepared for their culture to infiltrate my lesson. But I'm so happy that I provided a room for their culture in my class, because it made the lesson come to life. It made the lesson make sense. It made my students feel like they're a part. It made them share my lesson with other teachers and other students. And then my kids rocked it out. So everybody wanted to be in my class after that. So, and yes, Ms. McFarland, they remember. And I see the comment here about vocabulary and how it's so meaningful, Courtney. I love that in your experience here. You said you work with ESC students and they love vocabulary, the rhyming and the music, because who doesn't like music, right? So let me play for you guys one of these songs. I played this for my son. He's a 3rd grader and he loves it. I played it. I kind of overdid it though. And so I played it all the time. I play it when I drop him off at school. He'd be like, Mom, stop. But, we had a good time with it. So let me know that you can hear this, okay? Can y'all hear?
Again, you may have to reshare because your screen is like blurred.
Okay. Let me reshare it. Are we good now?
Oh, when you see a polygon and you
Can you
want
see it?
to know.
Yes.
Can You can hear it? Can you hear it?
Well, the name of the polygon.
Yes, we're hearing it.
Is determined by the number of sides. Now show me triangle, triangle.
All right, I love it, Doc.
Yes.
Hexagon, octagon. Now show me triangle, triangle, quadrilateral.
It's a really good song to get stuck in your head, too.
Hexagon, octagon.
I love the culture.
Now take a look at the polygon.
Can you imagine parents
And count the
dancing
sides
around their,
if
living room with their child on the song?
And when you know
Speaking
how
numbers?
many
Yes, the calypso,
sides,
exactly.
just remember
I love it, and I knew y'all
the
would
words
get
to the
it.
song. Now show me
Are you ready for the
triangle,
beat?
triangle, quadrilateral,
Oh, Mr. Collins, you said, why did I share this 2 weeks ago? I know. But now you have this, right? So, cool for you. You can use it for K-5. You can use this for your high schoolers that don't know shape.
4 sides, quadrilateral, 5
Yes.
sides,
Yes.
pentagon,
South Florida is basically the Caribbean, Courtney, right?
hexagon,
I'm glad you love it.
8 sides,
How
octagon.
big idea is learning like this on culture and connecting with our learners.
Show me triangle,
It's the music.
quadrilateral,
So for teaching amazing math, they'll never forget that, and they will never stop dancing to this song. So thanks so much for letting me share that. I knew you guys would like it. I knew it. I just knew it. And so my son absolutely loves it. Let me go to the next slide now. So along with tying in music, doing some, studies about what else is affecting the work of equity, we were able to find that identifying and creating ownership of biases was so important. Okay? It was so important. I'm going to stop sharing my screen again because I know that, after I share my screen, I have to reshare it whenever I switch slides. And so thanks for your patience with that, y'all. So here, we know it's so important to address our explicit and implicit biases. And it's okay. I want to let you know it's okay here to have a safe space to say, oh, I might have some biases. I might have some things. I might have some stereotypes that I'm working through, right? But it's a safe place because you know why? We're all growing together. We're all growing as leaders. We're all growing independently, individually. And so we have to start somewhere. So I'm going to talk about the perspective of having perspective of that student in their life, as well as coupling that with empathy to say, you know what? Like, for example, when I was a student in school, I took great notes, 2-3 pages of notes. I studied, I did my homework, didn't miss a beat. When I started teaching my first couple of years, guess what? I assumed that students had my same background, my same experience, right? And so that when they came into my classroom, they should just get it. What's the problem? You should get this. But then I had to understand, you know what, India? Not everybody had your walk of life. Not everybody thinks like you. Not everybody learns like you. Not everybody, absorbs their life experiences like you do. So you know what? I had to empathize, put myself in those students' shoes. Students that looked like me, students that didn't look like me. And I had to say, wow. I had to keep it real. I had to say, wow, what is going on at their house? What is going on in their life? What is going on in their bodies? What are they going through? Our kids are coming to us every day with so many different elements thrown at them, right? And so the last thing we want to do is to dismiss the idea that our kids are not trying their best when they really are. They might approach it differently from us. You know what I mean? Especially, I don't know if you guys have seen, there are certain students, like they might have a certain label or they might be dealing with something like an autistic student, but that student can take a bare wall, right? And create a whole portrait or like out of the weirdest things like that we would never even, imagine. But when you give that student, again, opportunity and you empathize and you try to figure out how they learn and their way of work, that student will soar. And that is no matter what their background, no matter what they're dealing with. And that's where we come into place. We have to sometimes slow down enough to say, okay, what is going on with Johnny, Gerard, Nina, like what's going on with these kids? How can I help them? And how can I push them where they are? The way they came to me, how can I make them better? And so, you know, with that said, and yes, I will definitely make sure to keep you guys posted with all this. But so it's so important to have that introspection and to know that even though we might have biases and whatnot, we can make our biases work for us. So definitely just know that. And I appreciate you guys chiming in there. So in conclusion, we found that it's so important to have relationship building, to connect with students, because if the students feel like they like you and you like them, and the students feel like you're connected to them, they will soar. So it's important to have that relationship building as well. Along with relationship building, it's important to make sure that we're remembering all the different elements here that we've talked about, empathy and compassion. We're connecting with learners. And so with that said, guys, I'm going to wrap this up because we are now coming to our conclusion. We've spoken about relationships. We've spoken about having role models, having empathy and compassion. And so what I want you guys to do for the sake of time is to just think about this question about how can we have more productive conversations with our leaders and teachers around equity in our schools each day so that we can become more effective at implementing equity in education. So with that said, thank you so much. I appreciate all of you. If you want a copy of this presentation, please email me. I did leave you guys my information. I will put my email also in the chat as well, and I can give you a copy of this presentation, as well as if you want me to come out and to provide a free PD presentation of this presentation, and I am more than willing to come out and to assist you guys. So with that said, thank you all so much as well. There's my personal information. It has been absolutely a grand time speaking with each of you. And thank you so much for the work that you do every day to implement equity in your schools. And so you guys have a wonderful day. I think that we are out of time.